My name is Norma Lilia Ruiz Cruz, and if you'd like to know more about my play and the Echo Theater, please watch this video. I fell in love with theater, I think, at a very young age. I don't remember it. I just know I've always wanted theater. Like, I just wanted to be in theater. And I remember the first play I remember watching was, I don't remember how it was called or anything, but it was a play for children. And my dad took me, and there was this dragon puppet that they will move around. And I just thought it was so awesome. Like, I don't even remember anything from the plot, but I know I loved it. And since then, like, I've always been going to theater, and my parents always took me to plays. My dad will take me every weekend to a storyteller who will tell stories about like the native groups that live in Baja California, Mexico, which is where I grew up. And I will go like every Sunday if I could. And then I will play that I was an actor. And my mom says that I used to tell her like these very long made up stories I will make up in the spot as plays. And she said they were always like really boring and terribly long, but it was kind of cute that it was this like 5-year-old just telling her stories. But then I didn't start studying it and like I guess taking it seriously until I was 12 years old. I entered my first acting class, which I was very excited about. And I don't know, like I really like studying it and learning more from it. And so I think, yeah, that's when I was like, this is something I really want to do. When did I first fall in love with writing? I think I first fell in love with writing through spoken word. I think I've always loved poetry, and I will also love short stories. So when I was like 10, 12, I started this vlog where my only 2 followers were my parents, and they will like everything and comment on it and like discuss the literary review of it. And I will just write like short poems or short stories. They weren't really good, but I just wrote them. And I just kept doing it. And then I sort of forgot about writing. I will still journal. I've always kept like a diary. I mean, I don't write every day, but I'm always writing, and I'm always making up stories or just writing about what I see or thinking about what I live. But I didn't realize how powerful and how much I needed to do it until college, because I sort of stopped writing for a bit. And then my senior year, I took more writing classes. So I took playwriting classes, and then I took a creative writing class. And I realized that a lot of the things I had already been doing were the process that writers take to write their stories. And I guess I never thought I was very talented. I still don't know, I'm not like, oh, I'm such a great writer, but I know that I need to write because it's an urge I have. And I didn't realize I needed it that much until I stopped doing it for a bit, because in college you get so busy and you have all these things that you're constantly having to do, and then you write things, but you write essays and you write things you need to write. But it wasn't until I got back to creative writing and where I could write whatever I wanted to write that I was like, I really needed this. My soul needed this. I love the playwriting format because it is focused on action. So English is my second language. So I first fell in love with theater in Spanish. And it's been an interesting transition to think of like theater in Spanish and then theater in English and the cultural differences. But I think I found it the easiest way to write, not because I'm saying playwriting is easy, but it's the one that I feel the most. And maybe it's because I started acting and watching plays, so I'm more familiar with it. I also think that it's very accessible, or it was very accessible to me. I still think playwriting and theater could do more and become more accessible than it already is, but I thought it was very accessible for me as a non-English speaker to just write conversations and think of tactics than, let's say, a novel, or like poetry was accessible in a different way, but it wasn't. So I always knew I could write plays, even if English wasn't like great. and like I could write them in Spanish, and I can mix both languages in my plays. And I guess I could do that with any other medium, but I've studied so much theater that it's easier for me to do it with plays. I think I always start with an image. I'm a very visual person, so I always think. So the play I'm writing right now, I thought of a quinceañera, and I just thought of the dress on stage, and then, or I think of a space I want, or like a figure I want on stage, and then I start thinking about the backstory of said image, which is interesting because I don't know how. Like, I don't think I use a lot of imagery once I actually write the play, but I first think of like a scene or a moment in that play, and then I think about what will happen either before or after said scene. And I then outline. I'm very like methodical in that way because I will write outlines and then start writing. Once I have an outline, I start writing and filling in the blanks. And then I just keep revising it from like the first scene I wrote till the end. I first heard that someone posted it in the Playwrights and Dramaturgs group that we had so I went to the University of Oklahoma, and I major in dramaturgy. And they posted in the group that there was an opening for the National Young Playwrights in Residence program for 2020. And I was about to graduate, and I applied, and I was like, I don't even think I'll get it, but I'm applying anyways. So I submitted my plays, and that was the first time I heard from them. But I decided to apply because they were focusing on a lot of new work, and they had all these really cool programs and ideas. And like the National Young Playwrights in Residence was one of them, but they also had so many, and they had those where they were either Tuesdays or Thursday new work meetings. And I just thought it was a very innovative company. So I just wanted to be a part of it. Yeah, so my mentor is Bernardo Cubría. He is a Mexican playwright and actor. He has been amazing. I was a little bit nervous because I was very intimidated by the whole mentor idea, but he was very easygoing, but also he let me lead how I wanted this fellowship to go, like residency. He said, okay, what do you need? How is this going to help you? And he gave me, of course, tools. Like he was like, I use the Liz Lerman feedback loop. I think that, we should meet like once a month and then discuss the play. He actually did he helped me get at least 3 readings with some of his like actor friends, and also he talked to me about how to ask about the director. He was just very supportive, even when I was second guessing myself a lot. He was always offering support, but also professional guidance. And the thing is that it also goes beyond just display. Like he has supported me a lot with, how to look for grad schools and opinions about what it is to be like a Mexican artist in the US. And he has similar tastes. Like he really likes clowning, and that's something we sort of bonded over because I think cloning is one of the highest forms of theater, and so does he. So it was just very fun and like very enlightening to have someone with a somewhat similar background and who understood like the cultural background behind my plays. Like it was nice that I didn't have to explain to him what a quinceañera is or like what the Spanish in the play meant, because he could read it. So that was a very good experience, and he was very helpful, and he still is very helpful. Like I know this is a person that's not, okay, your plane is done, bye. Like he's still going to be in my life even after this program ends. It first started with a prompt. So I had 2 ideas I may write about. One was like a Greyhound trip, and the other one was like a pregnant quinceañera. And I guess I started with a scene. I'm always writing about women, and specifically Mexican woman and brown Mexican woman. And I think that quinceañeras are very specifically Mexican. Well, they're not specifically Mexican. They're in Latin America, but it's very Latinx and it's very cultural. And they also change from which region you're on. And there was something very attractive that drew me into that play, but I knew I really needed to write that play once I started writing it. So because I am from Tijuana and I grew up in Mexico until I was 16 years old. So I've grown up with a lot of the issues that women face. And I think that it's kind of like a love letter, but a very traumatic love letter, because, I mean, abortion, and it doesn't deal with abortion, but first I was going to deal with abortion because it was a big issue at the time, and I'm pro-choice personally. But I also know that if I ever got pregnant, I would probably not go with an abortion. And now I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but it's just, I started thinking about what if the play was about this pregnant quinceañera who has to choose between having a baby or getting an abortion. And that's the whole premise. And obviously it changed a lot as I started writing it. But a lot of the topics I deal with in the play are topics that are very personal, because it's a reality for many women. And it's just, I think a lot of the times when we think of victims of abuse, we tend to think of them as like, oh, poor them. And we just make it another statistic. But there are stories and dreams and hopes behind victims of abuse. And just because you go for something very traumatic doesn't mean that that's the only thing that defines you. So as I was writing this play, I just kept thinking that we need to tell these stories because, yes, when you read the statistics, you hear, okay, this amount of women are abused in Mexico or, like in Hispanic communities. But we need to think about the woman behind these statistics. And that's why I needed to write it. The play starts when Claudia, on her 30th birthday, hears a knock on the door. And then she opens the door and it's this young woman. And throughout, the first scene, we find out that this girl who's 15 years old is claiming to be Claudia's daughter. And it's just about, it goes back and forth between time from Claudia's quinceañera to her 30th birthday. And during Claudia's quinceañera, she reveals that she's pregnant with her best friend while she's dating another guy. And so, but we also find out that she has a lot of issues leading from, she has a lot of trauma that happened during her 15-year-old birthday, but we don't really know what it is until the end of Act 1. But we do know that she's very conflicted about this girl who's claiming to be her daughter. I want the audience to watch the play and breathe at the end. And it sounds weird because it's not an easygoing play. It's a hard play and it's difficult to watch at times. It was difficult to write sometimes. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I'm writing it. And these characters say these things. But I want people to see that, feel that, and at the end, breathe. Because that's what happens in life. And life can be very tragic. And you have to get through. I want them to go with the process that Claudia is going through the play. And in order for them to do that, they need to see her struggle, see the things that she's struggling because of, and then breathe with her as she goes throughout the play and as she deals with her own personal issues and her own trauma and her interactions with those around her who live the trauma with her. I'm really looking for seeing other plays and mine like come to life. This has been such a fun process, and I'm very excited to meet the other playwrights even more. We've already interacted a little bit, but I'm really excited to you always get to know people through their plays. So I'm really excited to get a slice of their souls on Zoom. And I'm also very excited for just seeing, not final products, because a lot of them are still developing, but just seeing what other people worked with and work on. There are a lot of reasons why it is important to get more voices in the community. One very obvious one is that if you want theater to be entertaining, you can't just keep showcasing the same one white male gaze voice. You need more. And that's just one very obvious one. But the other one is that the world isn't a monolith or a one experience. We often talk about how theater should be a reflection of the world we live in, but we can never have that unless we have a varied and wide range of people that are partaking in the theater. Now, I think a lot of people think of diversity in the theater by just having diverse actors, but you really need people behind the scenes that have different experiences. And it's like race, also economic backgrounds, and, immigrants. I think it's hilarious. One of the things they used to tell me in college is that I was never going to be able to be an actor unless I got an American accent. And I always thought that was very ridiculous, because it's so funny that sometimes they're like, okay, we need you to do the accent even more, or they're like, you need to get rid of it at all. But the thing is, humans are not like a one box fits all. And though theater has a lot of stereotypes and archetypes, and that's part of it, you're never going to get characters that, are not mates. Like in my case, when they were like, oh, you need to get an American accent, I write so actors don't have to get an American accent. I've written several plays with the intention of having actors who are immigrants, who are like just not US citizens, or who come from different countries, to be able to just play their characters with their voices. And I think that's why you need everybody to be able to be a part of theater. Theaters like the Echo Theater Company are very important because they are pushing for new work and for new voices to be heard. And it is important to have them in the community, because that's how you make good theater and change. I mean, I've only been with them for 6 months. I've already seen so many great works. I actually did a monologue for them in Spanish by this Puerto Rican writer. And I've seen a lot of their programming. I've seen a lot of what they're doing. I've seen a lot of the programs they're making and that they're participating in, and they're opening the gates for many people. And I think theaters like that are at the forefront of what our theater is evolving to be. And the fact that, they offer to fly you into Los Angeles so you can work, and they give you a professional playwright as a mentor. And I feel like so many times people want people of color or diverse voices or young people in their companies, but they don't give you the resources for you to succeed. They're just like, okay, here you are, figure it out. And I really think that what the Echo Theater Company did really well is that they offered you the steps for you to get there. They assigned you a mentor, someone who helps you write your play. They can't fly us in because of the pandemic, but they were going to, let us go to LA, work with them, interact with other playwrights, interact with other directors, meet new actors. And they're really just giving you the keys and saying, hey, go do this work. And we need theaters that not just open the door, but like help you get in and like help you make networks and connections. And I think that's why they're so valuable. But also, I think a lot of their programs are very community based, and they're really trying to do things that are relevant in their communities. My name is Norma Lilia Ruiz Cruz, and if you enjoyed this conversation about my play or the Echo Theater, please go to the Echo website to find more about it.